Hey guys, SoCal Val here. You are listening to the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast.
Welcome everybody back to another Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast, and this is our AEW Dynamite review show. Howdy everyone, I'm your host Andy Burrows, and as you can see, I'm joined by my two illustrious co-hosts, Mr. Adam Cousins and Mr. Dave Robinson. Boys, how are we?
All good.
Really good, man.
Let's talk some AEW. We are nearly 24 hours removed from AEW Dynamite. I caught up with it this morning. It was way better than last week's show, put it that way. It couldn't get much worse. But Dave, you are an AEW guru. Before we break it down and get into matches, what did you make of it this week? A vast improvement on last week. They seemed to hit the ground running this week.
I think so, yeah. It was a return to the usual formula of great in-ring matches, a lot of storyline continuation as well in terms of the tournaments that are running at the minute. So, yeah, I thought this was back to a really good, solid episode this week.
Had solid start from AEW, starting off with a fast match. You know what I mean? Keith Lee. I really like this dude, man. I do think he's been, before we get into it a little bit, I was interested to get your guys' opinions because he hasn't really set the world alight in AEW. He had the rise in NXT, which is great. Then he had the spot with Brock Lesnar at the Royal Rumble, which everyone was like, "Oh, hello, they're going to launch him to be the next big thing." Then he vanished. Then he got released. Then he got sent, or he signed for AEW. I was thinking, here we go. They'll reignite his career. And he kind of dwindled a little bit in AEW. But the Keith Lee that I saw last night on Dynamite was the Keith Lee that I know and love. Powerful, strong, can move for a big guy. Obviously teaming up with Swerve, which was, was an interesting storyline, shall we say, against Darby Allin and your mate Orange Cassidy started off Dynamite. He's got to be the rule that he starts off Dynamite. I mean, I reckon he's got things to do on a Wednesday night. He's got to be somewhere. He has to open the show. But I liked the Keith Lee that we saw last night, and it was a solid opening to AEW Dynamite. I've said it for ages. Open a show fast and get the audience engaged. That was a great match that they opened with last night.
Yeah, it was. Parker made a great point on the Collision review where he was saying that I don't think AEW know how to book big guys.
They do,
and
true.
I kind of agree with that, which is weird how it didn't work out for him in WWE. I know there was this whole thing about his weight and all that. I don't fucking know. But the guy can move. The guy can go. I still don't think AEW is the right place for him because they just don't know. Look at the big guys they've got. Lance Archer, Brian Cage, Wardlow.
Powerhouse Hobbs.
Yeah. What have they done with him?
He's just jobbing out on Rampage nowadays, isn't he?
Well, this is the thing. But the match itself, loved it. I loved the Keith Lee sort of smiling every time. Like, he was just out overpowering them. It was great. The Swerve thing was interesting because they'd recently split as a team. So to bring them back for the blind eliminator made a lot of sense. I was a bit confused with the end. And Dave, maybe you can help with this. I thought Keith Lee was the legal man.
Yeah, it was. It was. I went back and watched it a couple of times, so they did screw that up a little bit.
I even heard someone say Keith. I think it might have even been the ref that said Keith Lee's legal.
Mm-hmm.
But then they rolled up Swerve for the win. So I was a bit confused with that. But I thought the match was great.
Yeah, they something went wrong there because I went back and watched it a couple of times, so I thought exactly the same. I thought that Keith was still the legal man.
Yeah.
I think you both made good points about Keith Lee. He looked pretty good last night on Dynamite. It's probably the best he's looked since he came in when he threw I Want a Private Party through the air. And, it was like the arrival of Keith Lee. He hadn't looked great since. So we'll see where this goes. There was obviously a little bit at the start as well with Darby when Darby was
I don't think Darby Allin's ever been thrown so far in his life. That opening, honestly, that was incredible.
Yeah, it was. So...
Do you think that they're slowly getting to know what to do with Keith Lee? Or will these shows help now? Will Dynamite and Collision help. I mean, me and Adam mentioned it a couple of weeks ago when we were chatting. Maybe there might be like a roster split or something like that. Do you still think that AEW know what they're doing with Keith Lee? Because I'm not sure they do. I mean, they've got a million titles in there. Surely they can get him involved in one of the storylines.
Yeah, I think this split now, we're a few weeks into Collision, and it does seem to be we get certain guys on Dynamite, we get certain guys on Collision. So they're splitting that off pretty well, and I think Keith Lee's going to be a Dynamite guy moving forward week in, week out. And I think, as I say, I don't expect Darby and Orange to win in terms of the tag tournament. So maybe something splinters off with Darby and Keith Lee. They seemed to sow some seeds last night, even prior to the match.
Yeah, I thought it was good. I thought, where did we go after that? Well, we can talk about the tournament. What did everyone make of MJF and Adam Cole, baby? The Twitter is on fire with these two, saying how much they love it.
Here's the thing. I thought it was hilarious. Don't get me wrong. I thought it was really funny. The question to Twitter and everybody else, if that had been on WWE, they would have shit all over it.
They wouldn't do something like that with a champion on WWE.
No, but what I'm saying is that you put that same skit with two guys on WWE.
Say Seth Rollins and
they will shit over it. I'm not trying to do tribalism or anything like that, because I enjoyed the segment. I thought it was hilarious when they were in the gym, took the piss out of Tony Schiavone. The tag match was great. You know, that they had was really good as well. The comedy spots was really great. But, and I've said this to Dave, where they done something on Impact a couple of months ago, and I asked Dave the same question. If that had been on Raw, for argument's sake, it would have been shit on. I enjoyed it though, but I just think it would have been shit on WWE.
I enjoyed the segment, and I thought it was really entertaining, really funny, but nobody's going to convince me that it's befitting of the world champion. So I have to kind of almost separate that.
Yeah.
I'm not huge on the MJF title run, unfortunately, but on MJF as a performer, as a wrestler, and this is a story, fantastic, really good, brilliant. But I don't think the world title should be involved in this picture. And as long as it's around MJF's waist, it kind of is. So
it's kind of obviously circling for Cole and MJF to. Is it too far out for All In? Because I still reckon that's going to be MJF and Punk.
I don't know. He's going to turn on him at some point, isn't he? I mean, let's be honest. That's going to happen.
He did shove his face in a cake at the end of that birthday segment. Yeah, I'm kind of with Dave though. If you look back to maybe 2 months, maybe even a month, MJF was his most hated character. He was cutting promos, and all of a sudden AEW have gone, hang on a minute, we're kind of flipping it now to make him that comedy. And don't get me wrong, the segment last night I thought was hilarious. I thought it was really, really good. But I'm kind of with Dave. If you're the AEW World Heavyweight Champion, don't get me wrong, we've seen it in the past. Bloody hell, Stone Cold Steve Austin and Kurt Angle done some of the funniest shit I've ever seen when Austin was champ. So the comedy can be put into it. But we were only sitting here a month ago when MJF was the biggest heel on AEW TV, maybe minus Chris Jericho, and he was hated, and he was coming out and cutting badass promos, and you know he was getting himself over as the most hated man in AEW. And now they're kind of like, well, you know, we're kind of turning you into a comedy skit. Do you think, Dave, that Tony Khan knows where he wants to go with his title run? Or I'm seriously, I know this for a fact. We're just biding our time till we get to Wembley Stadium and he's dropping that title to CM Punk, or he's dropping it in Chicago the week after Wembley Stadium. Yeah,
quite possibly. I think he's probably quite conflicted because MJF is so good at everything he does. But as you say, it doesn't really make sense for him to be like cutting these scathing heel promos, for him to be saying he's having the best type of matches, he's the best wrestler on the roster, and then to be involved in more of a comedy skit. So it's a little bit, I don't know, maybe it's just me. But I would sooner the world title be outside of this picture. I'd still be enjoying this storyline with MJF and Cole without the title being involved. I'd rather the title have its own story, because it doesn't. It doesn't do anything for the title. You know,
I never really progressed that storyline at the first Collision when Punk come out with the bag and everyone thought that the title was in there. What's happened? Well, with that?
Did. They mentioned
it, I suppose. But
MJF has bought a replica off of the shop, so they're going to do something with that. But I'm skeptical about Punk winning it just because of all this backstage crap. I don't, because technically that is a Dynamite champion. I know we're talking roster splits, but I can't. I know they're.
I think MJF's on Collision this Saturday as well.
He was on last week.
I think he's on this Saturday as well.
Is he? I don't know.
I think so. I think I've seen something that I might be wrong, but yeah, I'm just. I don't know. I don't think AEW kind of know what to do with their world champion at the minute, and it's kind of like he'll have when this does eventually happen, and Adam Cole gets his. It'll be where Adam. Where do you think the title shot will come, and Adam and Cole will turn on MJF? And obviously they're into the next round of the tournament, which is next Wednesday on Dynamite. Do they make it to the finals, and that's when the turn comes?
All I hope, because I know FTR are defending the titles this week on Collision against Juice and Jay White. All I hope is that they don't drop them to a tag team like that, because we've seen that so many. You mentioned we've seen it so much in WWE. Do you remember before WrestleMania season?
Yeah,
world champion was always going to win the tag titles up until WrestleMania, and then they would lose it and then turn on each other or something like that. I don't know. This is the first time I don't actually know. I still kind of think that potentially Adam Cole gets a shot at All In.
Okay. What, one-on-one?
Yeah. Well, I think so. There's nobody else in the mix at the minute that I would. I mean, I suppose you could add Punk if you wanted to. And Punk is on the posters now. It was in the. I saw a newspaper last week. And just to add, 75,000 seats sold.
They've opened up the full top tier now at Wembley Stadium.
No,
that was not. And 20. You can get a ticket. I had a look this morning. £23.50.
Do you know what though? And
great value.
The internet people can mug them off as much as they want. Say, "Oh, scalpers have bought it," all this crap.
No.
Wait until we get there. We'll film it with it full, and then what they're going to say. I'm sick and tired of people shitting on AEW for booking Wembley Stadium and saying it's going to be scalped, because they're trying to make an excuse up for them not selling this. And fair enough, there will be some comps in there, obviously, but
there'll be a few empty seats. There ain't going to be many.
Well, Clash at the Castle had 62,000 fans, 54,000 sold, and the rest were comps. So you can play that game as much as you want, and I'm just sick and tired of them getting mugged off. They've sold 70,000. You should be supporting that. That is amazing. They've not announced one match. It's their debut in the UK. The back of, maybe off the back of Money in the Bank might have helped, because they're like, oh, they've got this one coming on next month. We might as well go to that as well. Just give them some fucking respect.
Yeah, no, I think they deserve all the credit they can get, and I think Wembley will pretty much be sold out.
Oh, definitely. You'd be close.
The only thing that worries me at the end of August is the weather. I mean, God, that's just always going to be worrying over it. That's why when me and you actually were chatting last Saturday when we were together at Money in the Bank, that's why Mania worries me in the UK, because I don't think you could host it in Wembley in March. I think you'd have to have it at Cardiff because it's got a roof on it.
Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
Yeah, you could come to the mighty Spurs, I suppose, and we could,
Don't even give Levy any ideas. No, we need to stop that conversation.
Yeah,
now.
I know. One thing that I've got a couple of gripes with Dynamite. There isn't many, because I really did enjoy the show. I didn't fast forward it a couple of times. When you're watching wrestling, you're like, oh, I'll just zip through this. I didn't zip through any of it. I'm not quite sure, Dave, and you're obviously an AEW diehard from day one. Jack Perry as a heel now, and the dodgy backstage segment with Hook. I mean, I'm not sure. One of my mates, Nick, I know will be watching this. He sent me a voice note the other day going, if you thought Jungle Boy's promos were bad, Jack Perry as a heel is a million times worse. Obviously going off Dynamite last week, and then they had the backstage brief segment this week when he got out the car and Tony Schiavone interviewed him. Then Hook come and give him a kind of beat down, and he jumped. I don't know where he drove off in that car. He's only in a small arena, so fuck knows where he went. I don't know what happened there. But what are you going to make as Jack Perry as a heel? I'm going to give it a chance, but I'm a bit like I'm with Nick, a good friend of mine who loves watching this show. I know he tunes in every week. I'm kind of with him. I'm not sure how well he's going to go as a heel, because if anything, his promos or anything to go by, they're fucking awful.
I'd like him to find his way back to Christian. I think there's a good story that can be told there. I think Christian is the best thing that could have happened to Jack Perry in terms of his character development, in terms of his heel work. He's a great talent, has great matches, consistently good matches. But I'm with you guys, unfortunately. He's not strong enough yet as a standalone character. He still needs some fine-tuning. And I think the perfect person is there backstage. He's already worked with him. They've worked, obviously, the angle which led to the matches between themselves. But it wouldn't be too difficult to redirect Jack Perry and reignite him with Christian. I think that would be the way that I'd want to go.
Yeah, he needs a mouthpiece.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's...
And the
I'm putting Taz in this. I'm putting Taz in this as well.
But the other thing
I'll get him involved
is what's his bird doing? She's meant to be a part of Jericho.
And Jay, yeah.
She's done nothing. Why don't you just put them to do like another Sammy and Tay? Because Tay's obviously pregnant. She's going to be going off soon. And why don't you just bring them two together and just, unless I agree with Dave, I think Christian is the best thing that could have, get him back to Christian. Or just bring him, if you don't want to do that, put him with Anna Jay.
Yeah. It's looking like the JAS has kind of run its course, and maybe that will be cleared up in the next couple of weeks. So maybe that's some way they go on to.
I like the good segue, Dave. You're getting really good at this now, mate. Chris Jericho come out and kind of give us a glimpse of old style Jericho when he was doing that, and he had the silver shirt on again, and I was really we've given Jericho some stick the last couple of weeks, especially on this show. I thought this promo that he started to cut before Don Callis come out and teased us with him joining his faction. I don't know where they're going to go with Jericho now. It would be quite interesting to see what he was going to say before Callis come out. I mean, are we still heading towards Jericho and Sting at Wembley Stadium at All In? Or are they going to turn Jericho back to a babyface? Because he was in Canada, I get it. But the reaction to the original Chris Jericho, and he did put bits of it in that promo back from the old WCW days and WWF days. I mean, Adam, what do you think now? Like Dave says, the JSA Society or whatever the hell it's called that's kind of coming to an end now. They're all he was kind of cutting the backstage promos. Like, look, you guys are going to do it without me. Do you think that they're trying to turn Jericho full 180 now and put him back into that baby phase? And could they throw him into the title mix?
Jesus, I hope not. And that's not a disrespect to Joe. I just don't think he's at that level anymore. I know we're saying MJF isn't particularly having a great run, but I don't know, because it really felt as if they were unless they're leaving it until later on, because obviously we've still got 6-7 weeks until
at least 7 weeks. You've
got to do, I suppose, and I think this is what AEW is starting to do now, is kind of let's do a couple of bits before we build up to All In, because then they've got All In, All Out, and then Shake It All About afterwards. So it's kind of 2 pay-per-views in a week.
I'm definitely watching Shake It All About. What night's that on?
Yeah, that's going to be
wait till the tickets go on sale.
Yeah. But to do 2 pay-per-views in a week, that's
unheard of in wrestling. They're going to make wrestling history.
So they are. So I think I do think we're still going to get Jericho Sting at Wembley. I still believe that. I don't think I don't think it's a face turn. I think it was more he was in Canada. And it was just one of those things, and maybe next week we'll get probably a better understanding when they come away from Canada and come back to the US. But it was nice to see. It was a great I don't think he joins Callis. I still think that's Ospreay, or as an outside squeak chance for Blood and Guts. If it's not Ospreay, I'm going to go with Eva Luna from the Dark Order. Maybe for what happens at the end.
Blood and Guts is in a couple of weeks. July the 17th in Boston, I think.
2 weeks.
That's 2 weeks. Yeah, that's going to be interesting.
And Kenny Omega's hinted at the after Dynamite went off air of who the 5th man is for them.
Yeah, I know that is already.
We all know who that is.
Yeah, we all know it is already. Dave, obviously, we spoke about Jericho a lot on this show. What do you think now is happening with him? I know you've made a great point. He's kind of becoming the guy that he despised in WCW.
I wasn't too complimentary about him last week. I didn't like that Sting match, to be honest. But I did like this.
Did they give us that match too early, do you think? They just chucked it on a Dynamite. They have never wrestled before. No TV, nothing in WCW, in WWF, nothing. And they just go, me and Adam said this before we started recording, AEW seem very much, they have an idea and they do it now. They don't think, right, let's tease this a little bit. Let's build this up. And even if you have 2 or 3 weeks down the line, Tony Khan seems to, something pops in this side of his head and that side of his head goes, right, let's do this.
Yeah, there's definitely something in that. And I think that about the MJF Adam Cole stuff, I think they're booking it as they're going. And that's why it seems a little bit disjointed. And they're hating each other one week, having this 30-minute match. And then the next week, they're kind of playing friends in the gym, and as we said, entertaining, good stuff. We enjoyed it, but it does seem a little bit make it up as you go. And maybe that's what the Sting Jericho match last week, that's what it suffered with. We didn't need the Painmaker stuff and all the bits and pieces added to it. You build a Sting Chris Jericho match properly, even if it's a tag match, it doesn't need any frills. You can just go in there and do the match. You can promote it. I think Ad's right. They play to the crowd in terms of being in Canada, and Jericho was always going to get a decent reaction. particularly with the theme song. Everybody singing along to that. And this was an interesting promo. And when he intimated backstage that Sammy and Daniel Garcia don't kind of need him anymore, that did link in quite well into the direction it's going with Callis. So I'm excited again for this. And in terms of what happens with Jericho, sowing good seeds. But I think we do get the one-on-one match at All In. Just to answer your question.
No, yeah, I'm with you, man. I think it's a one-on-one match, and I may pop to the toilet when that match is on. Talk about sowing seeds. I mean, they done a good like a package with Darby Allin promoting Nick Wayne coming up, and obviously, it was a good package, really well put together. And I'm thinking, oh, great, this is going to be interesting. They're going to build him up coming into AEW. Lo and behold, 10 minutes later, they're announcing for next week against Swerve Strickland. This is the only gripe I've got with AEW, and I'm not sitting here telling I'm not telling lies. I love the WWE, and I am a WWE guy. I always have, always will be. I like professional wrestling, though. I like AEW. My main gripe with AEW is just this, Dave. They give Darby Allin this great promo with Nick Wayne, and his father passed away, and I brought him up, and great promo. 10 seconds later, they announced that he's on Dynamite next week. I mean.
Yeah, they just kind of throw it out a little bit too easily. Yeah,
and they kind of just like, here, guys, have this on free TV at AEW Dynamite. Is that, for you, though, you've watched AEW since day one. Is that something that Tony Khan needs to think, hang on a minute, let's hook them in, let's get them a little bit, but then let's just reel him in, have a quick photo with him, and then chuck them back into the sea?
Yeah, as you said, the way it was announced as well, it was just Excalibur, and he's running through of matches that are coming up over the next few shows. So some people might just be fast forwarding through that, and they're not even aware that the match is happening next week. So, yeah, I think that could have been done in a much better way. They set it up with a really nice package with Darby Allin, and the history of who this guy is, and he was his trainer's son, and how he got his contract. And it wasn't just because he was Darby's friend. It wasn't just because he was a young kid that had lost his dad. It was because of how talented he is. So to just throw that match against Swerve in, it's a bit disappointing. The match will be great. The wrestling always is. And we never ever criticize the wrestling or the quality of the matches. It's just the build to them sometimes could be a lot better, and they just need to slow down a touch at times, I think, and just let things build.
Do you remember when they used to have a new wrestler debuting on WWE or WWF, and you used to get like 4 weeks worth of promos before?
Oh, do you remember Razor Ramon? He used to drive around in a Cadillac. He drove around in a Cadillac for a month.
Yeah,
and then he picks everyone.
Yeah, but that's the kind of, they could have done like a part, like a part one, a part two, and then he's coming, next week, and then you would have had at least, a bit longer to get hold of it, to understand the story. The promo, I mean, that was probably Darby Allin's best promo.
It was great. Yeah. It was really good, man. But
really
Dave's
good.
right. Not a lot of people, the people that don't know Nick Wayne will be like, and like you say, if you have skipped forward some of it, you're going to see that next week and think, oh, that build didn't really last long. I mean,
how easy would it have been to just set up a beatdown situation with Swerve and the Mogul affiliates? They're beating down Darby, and then Nick Wayne appears, and they set up the match for the next week against Swerve. I mean, it doesn't take much thought, does it, to set that up?
No.
But it's better than just throwing it out there and like, have this.
Where are you with the storylines like that, Ads? Because Dave's right, and I 1,000% agree with Dave. The matches on AEW are always. I never watch an AEW match and go, that was a bit boring. Very rarely do I do that. But the only thing that you constantly got to think with AEW, they've kind of done that a bit quick, or that's been rushed. You know what I mean? They've got Dynamite, they've got Collision. I understand they haven't got these pay-per-views at the end of every month, and they're doing 2 back-to-back in August and September. But do you think, Adam, you've watched, me and you said this all the time, we love big builds, we love long-term storytelling. Do you think that Tony Khan just needs to, maybe get a little bit of help with this kind of thing? He's got some great people backstage, but they just seem to be rushing some of these storylines.
I think we always say that less is more in some cases, and that's what it should be. I think not having a pay-per-view every month, like with WWE, they can set something up. I mean, how many times have we got to a week before a WWE pay-per-view and they've still only announced 2 matches? Yeah, and then they kind of throw 3 of them. We had Omos and Rollins, didn't we?
They even do some on the pre-show sometimes. They're like, right, this is on the,
I think it's a case of just pump the brakes and have a think. Maybe just think about it, because the action on it, I mean, the wrestling this week was fantastic. There was a little bit of a thing with Britt Baker and stuff that we'll get into, and the Acclaimed that I want to talk about next. But other than that, like it was a solid show. But I just think sometimes take a step back and just use your nut. Think about it a little
just
bit.
think about like building things and keep fans engaged. Don't just give everything. I think I saw an interview with Triple H once, and he was asked something about a certain storyline that was going on. He's like, "Well, I don't want to give you all of this now because then you're not going to watch next week, or you're not going to want to watch the pay-per-view at the end of the month. You've got to kind of. We all say all the time, don't we, Az, about that arc that wrestling goes in. Well, we're now in July. Tony Khan should be thinking, right, this is how I want All In to go off the air. And this is how I want All Out to come on the air. This is how it should all be, like a little bouncing ball effect. This is where, this is where you want it to go. I just sometimes think that he's like a little kid in a candy store. He's like, oh, yeah, I want everything and I want it now. Pump the brakes, keep fans, make me want to watch next week. You know what I mean? Make me want to tune into Dynamite. But
they've got plenty of time now, haven't they? They've got 5 hours.
So much time. They've got a lot of TV now.
Television, yeah.
Another show. They've got Collision to use as well.
Yeah. I mean, we got a question coming from one of my mates, Nick, actually, about Collision, Dave. I'm going to be really interested to get your views on it at the end of the show. Adam, you wanted to talk about the Acclaimed, my friend.
Yeah, well, they were in a 6-man, weren't they? Second match on, which was against the Bollywood boys from WWE as well, the XW. Acclaimed don't work as faces for me. Okay. That's the thing. I like them. I just think, all that scissoring rubbish and all that stuff. But and it's even as much as the rap. It's even so much as you when you hear that music, you're always like, right, what's Caster going to say? And that's the thing I look forward to. Not more so than the match, but when they're faces, it's so watered down. Because you look at some of the stuff he was saying when they were heels, and they were getting the face reaction, but they were heels. Yeah. Some of the stuff he was saying was borderline, fucking criminal, but it was great. I just don't like it when they're faces because I think it takes even that bit at the start away. For me, I'm just sitting there going, oh, it's just the Acclaimed and they're just going to have a match. And it was a kind of a throwaway, really. I know they're trying to build themselves back up to get to the House. And let's face it, they're not going to beat the House Black. The trio. And funnily enough, Malachi Black, just as a segue, said he's only on Collision now. So that's one guy that's definitely only on Collision. But I don't know, Dave. What do you think the Acclaim? Is it just sort of they had their title run and it just seemed to go on like that?
Yeah, I don't understand. I don't understand it myself. I wish I could. They're a great team. They're really over with the crowd, but it seems like they got to the end of the one story, and then we didn't really know where to go. And they're one of the most over teams in the company. I mean, I don't understand where the Bollywood boys come from. When did that happen? It's just been thrown in there again. Wouldn't that be more of a Rampage thing to introduce a new team to us rather than throw them in this match with the former tag team champions? So, it was a bit of a thrown together match. In terms of heel or face, I think they can be over if they're cutting that same level of promo and the contents as it was. But as you say, that seems to be a bit more watered down, and it's more of along the lines of people loving the Acclaimed rather than the zingers that it was throwing out prior to that. And the people that they throw it out on, if they throw out zingers on the Bollywood boys, who cares? The Bollywood boys have just turned up. So when he's cutting the promos on established guys that have been there long term, they get the better reactions. So
I'd get rid of Billy Gunn.
Yeah. I don't mind him now and again, but
I don't mind about he's still doing the I got 2 words for you. Okay, mate, great. Yeah, I'd have him beat the living shit out of him. Have them turn them into. I'm with Adam. I prefer them as heels. I'd have them beat the crap out of him, turn them full on heel, try and make them the most hated team. I'd even cut out the rap for a little bit just to piss the audience off. At the start, come out, make out that you're going to do it, and just chuck the mic every week. And don't give the fans, because the fans will be craving that. Same with Jericho when he used to cut off his song. If you want to get real heat, just do little nuances, things like that you can do in wrestling. Don't give the fans what they want. Just be horrible bastards. And I think I'm with Adam 100%. I prefer them when they were heels. And we're getting like a kind of Saturday morning superstarsy kind of vibe from them. You remember when you used to watch that and all the baby faces used to come out and go, "Oh, it's so good to see you," and they'd win in 20 seconds. That's where I think we are with the Acclaimed. But I don't know. There's something maybe for them to work on. We had an Owen Hart match. The girls, Britt Baker and Ruby Soho. I really enjoyed this match. I thought it was good from start to finish. The end was good. Adam, what did you make of it, mate?
Yeah, I thought it was okay. I liked it. I liked it because they got given time, and we said this to Victoria or Lisa Marie Veron, that was interviewing yesterday, that when you give two talented people time, it's quite funny how all of a sudden it can make a good match. There was a couple of sloppy spots in here, but you get that. I mean, if she and actually Lisa made a good point. Sometimes the ropes are oily.
The ropes, yeah, oil, yeah,
bits and pieces like that. So something that we got to take into account when we say, "Oh, they botched that." We don't actually know the bits and pieces. So, but yeah, the match was good. I felt a little bit. The only thing that annoyed me a little bit was the ref clearly saw one of those times where Tony Storm pulled, you know what I mean? And it's like you'd normally send them to the back. But the question that I'll have for Dave is, obviously Britt Baker was the winner last year. She brought out the title, so she's lost it now. Why wasn't Adam Cole involved? Because he won it last year. So do you not think that they should have had the winners defending it rather than there's not even a storyline reason for Adam Cole not being in this tournament?
Yeah, and it would have been easy to remedy, wouldn't it? You know, a couple of weeks ago, if they'd have mentioned that the tournament was starting, but Adam Cole was going for the world title, which way did he want to go? That's it. Well, by not addressing it, insults the intelligence of the fans, because we're thinking, well, Britt's the current women's Owen Hart champion. Where's the men champion? And he's there. There's no real reason. If he was injured or he was away, then fair enough. But not to give us an explanation is a little bit weak. So, yeah, I do agree with you on that. But in terms of this match, I thought it was really good. A little bit overbooked towards the end. It didn't ruin it, though. I think it kind of protects Britt to a degree. So, yeah, I really like this. I thought it was a good match. And Ruby Soho, we talk about her a lot on the podcast, her ability both in the ring and on the microphone. So I think now she'll really benefit the extra time that the guys get now with the extra television that they've got at AEW.
Yeah. No, I agree. The main event was Kenny Omega and Wheeler Yuta. Fucking, I love that. What a match it was! And honestly, I've watched a lot of Kenny Omega matches before AEW, but as soon as I see him advertised on anything AEW, I'm watching anyway. But I'm really watching when he's on. I think that guy. I've said this a few times now. He's in my top 3 or 4. Greatest wrestlers at the minute. I think what he brings to AEW, I don't know how they do it, but they need to keep this man around for a very, very long time. He is AEW for me. Strap the rocket to him, let him go. Pray to God we get him when Will Ospreay at Wembley for part 2. I think that's going to be incredible. But you, Omega, put on a hell of a match. There was kind of we'll get to it in a minute. The ending kind of bamboozled me a little bit, but what did you boys make of the main event of this week's Dynamite?
And Dave?
Yep, absolutely loved it. Kenny Omega's right up there for me. I would rather him be holding the world title, and I think that's kind of what I was saying earlier. If Kenny was coming out here and he's the world champion in the main event, defending against Wheeler Yuta, or even if it's a match for if Wheeler wins, he gets a title shot. I think that would have been perfect. It makes so much sense in terms of the factions that have been feuding to now splinter off and have these one-on-one matches. So it was pretty much perfection. As I say, there was a bit at the end, I think I know what you're talking about, that didn't go perfectly, but I can forgive him for that, because other than that, it was a 5-star match. I thought it was really good. They've done a real good job in AEW of elevating guys like Wheeler Yuta.
Agreed.
People hadn't heard of, a couple of years ago at all. To be going out there and main eventing Dynamite and nobody batting an eye and going, well, what's this guy doing in this position? Nobody thinks that, do they? And if Darby Allin was in a main event, if Sammy Guevara's in a main event, people are kind of very accepting of that, and it's almost normal. So I think we should commend AEW for doing that. They've done a good job with some of the younger talents.
Could they add? Here's an idea. We're talking about Dave, just literally while Dave was talking, sprang into my mind. Kenny Omega into the world title picture. Could they say MJF and Adam Cole have their feud ended in a couple of weeks on Dynamite? So it all goes on. They have a match. MJF retains. Could they then say that you could put Kenny Omega and another in a match? Winner gets a title shot at All In Dynamite. Collision, you put CM Punk against another. Winner also gets the title shot at All In. And you have MJF, CM Punk, and Kenny Omega all in a match together at Wembley Stadium.
In an ideal world, you could absolutely do that, and it would be money. I think there's a lot of people that still want the Elite versus CMFTR. Which
that happens, I'll be amazed. I've heard so many interviews with people involved in the business, credible people, not dickheads like Dave Meltzer. I don't think the Elite will be anywhere near CM Punk ever again, unless health reasons. Don't get me wrong, Bret Hart come back to WWE after what happened with Owen, so never say never. But from everything that I'm hearing, I listened to Vince Russo was chatting about it the other day, and Conrad was doing something saying if them guys ever turn this into a storyline, they'll be amazed. I'm with you. I reckon it'll be money, but Jesus, I can't see it happening.
No, I can't even. Not now. I mean, I think there's so much has gone on and whatever. But to answer your question, it could happen. It could, like, as in the Omega Punk, because I don't think there's a lot of issues with Punk and Omega. I think it's more the others. So you could probably get away with that one easily. The only thing that's sort of slightly confusing for me with the main event, and I love Wheeler Yuta and I love Kenny Omega. So once that match got announced, it was like, okay, I'm watching Dynamite. I would just watch it for that because Wheeler Yuta is fantastic as well. Was the bit with the Dark Order confused me because I know that Adam Page kind of sided back with the Elite, but why would they stop him hitting Claudio with the chair? Which is what brings my point back of saying maybe Evil Uno is going to be their fifth man. I probably think it's more Ospreay than Uno, but it just sort of got me thinking, well, why are they doing that? And obviously I can't spoil Rampage for Dave at the minute, but they do have a match on Rampage, the Elite and Dark Order. But I was just a little bit confused about that bit, but I'm sure they'll make it. I'm sure they will tell us maybe next week.
Yeah, the bit I was alluding to was right at the end when just before the one-winged angel and Kenny punched through the legs and he didn't actually catch Wheeler.
Oh, yeah. I thought he hit him in the balls, to be fair.
Yeah,
I did as well, to be fair.
And then when I sent it back, so that's what they were going for, and Wheeler was just a little bit too high, so that was a bit I said I'd forgive him for. Okay. But yeah, the bit with the Dark Order, not 100% sure why the Dark Order would make a save in terms of a chair shot. So yeah, I hadn't thought about it, but yeah, good shout.
Yeah, no, but I to be fair, this week's Dynamite for me was a million times better than the piece of shit that we watched last week because that was fucking awful. For me, if I had to give it a grade, and I don't know what you boys think, I'm giving it a solid 8 out of 10. I thought it was a really, really good show. I mean, we're nitpicking things here, but you know what I mean? I thought AEW got back to what they do best, and that was great in-ring matches. They kept the promos to very short amount of time, which I love. The in-ring stuff for me, AEW are they're a little bit better than the WWE in my. And hey, look, that's me saying this. So all these dickheads on Twitter that are going to come at us, I think AEW's in-ring stuff, when they do it and do it right and do it correct. Don't get me wrong, WWE Money in the Bank last week, the main event was one of the best matches I've ever seen. But when AEW get their in-ring stuff correct, they're amazing.
Yeah, and it's our job on a review show to critique stuff. So if it sounds like we're nitpicking, that's really good because that means AEW are doing the majority of stuff right.
Yeah, we're not sitting here going the whole show was crap last week.
Yeah, I know you hate that. I struggled last week to kind of be really positive about it because there were bits that I didn't enjoy. But this week would be the type of show that I would introduce to a friend that didn't watch wrestling, and I'd say, this is what I'm into. Put 2 hours aside and watch this and see what you think. And if you'd like it, great. If you don't, fair enough. But I would be quite happy to do that because it's a good presentation of the thing that I love for 2 hours. So I think, this week we're back to those consistent levels. We're not 10 out of 10. I think an 8's probably about fair, Andy.
Yeah.
Adam, what are you grading it, mate? 8?
Yeah, I agree. It's been the best show of the week so far. Although I must say, I know we don't review NXT. I must say, NXT this week. Baron,
I'm watching it. Don't give me too much. I'm watching it tonight.
Oh, okay, I won't give you too much. But also, and I know we're segueing to WWE and so main event, Apollo Crews and JD McDonough.
Oh, okay. I'll watch that. Is it on the network?
No, it's an AEW show, but I had to get it in because what was the question anyway that you got asked that you wanted?
Yes. So Nick, my good friend, Nick Brazier, watches this, listens to it. I don't know how he gets it. Dave, I'll put it to you first, just before we get out of here. Nick thinks AEW have bitten off too much, more than they can chew with Collision on a Saturday. Wanted to get our thoughts.
I don't know. I'm really enjoying it at the minute because it's got a very different feel for me than Dynamite. So I really like the little interviews before the show starts. That's like an old school thing, isn't it? It sets it apart a little bit. The Elton John theme's been stuck in my head for 3 weeks. I can't shake it. And we're getting more of the guys like that we don't see too much of. You know, I think Ricky Starks, Powerhouse Hobbs will be a good match on Saturday. And if they'd have tried to cram that into Dynamite this week, it would have just been too much. So it keeps stuff special. So I wouldn't say they've bitten off more than can chew yet. We'll have to see. There's definitely ways they can improve their storytelling and their long-term angles. And hopefully as the weeks go on, that'll get better and better now that they've got the extra show. But yeah, I don't necessarily agree that they've bitten off more than can chew yet.
We've got CM Punk and Samoa Joe this Saturday. That is just take my money. That's going to be incredible. Adam, what do you think briefly, mate, before we get out of here? Next question. Do you think they're bitten off more than they can chew?
No, I think the only concern will be ratings when the season,
college football.
College football started. I mean, the ratings were bad last week because it was a tape show, and everyone, what it's like on the socials. Soon as a rating, I don't think so. I think this is exactly what they need. They have a massive roster of talent that ultimately you're never going to find time for, and they didn't. So having this, and as long as they sort of keep certain people on that show, so they get the time, Juice Robinsons, Jay White's, Punk, Joe, all of them got. I'm all for it. I don't think they have at all. I think it's exactly what they need.
Yeah, no, I'm enjoying Collision. I kind of get what Nick's saying. I think you have to just separate it we've said this about plenty of things. When we started reviewing Impact, you've got to train your brain. This isn't WWE, this isn't AEW. Collision's kind of AEW going in a little new direction, so I love the setup, by the way.
I think it's great.
And even when Elton John started singing Saturday, that theme tune at Glastonbury, I was like, the first thing I thought was AEW. But it was it was good. It was good. But boys, a pleasure to sit down and talk some AEW. We have got a lot coming up this week. Make sure you go and follow us on all social media. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, TikTok and Instagram. Just search, and obviously YouTube, just type in Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. But I've enjoyed this, lads. Let's do it all again. We've got SmackDown reviews, we've got Impact, we've got guests coming up. We've got a little thing called Buckle Up coming up on July the 23rd, which is our event. And there's
only 25 seats left.
25. We are gonna have an attendance record for Ignite Wrestling Pro. It's going to be incredible. Anyone wants to come, just jump on our Twitter at HTT Buckle. We've got all the information on there. I'll just search Ignite Wrestling Pro. 20 odd tickets left, like Adam says. I don't think they're going to release any more. Once they're sold, they are sold. So come down, check us out. Come say hi to me, Adam, and Dave. We'll all be there. But lads, let's do this all again next week. I have been your host, Andy Burrows, with my good friends, Mr. Adam Cousins and Dave Robinson. Till next time, everybody, buckle down. Stay safe.